We will record this. Just so everyone knows, the only thing that you'll see on the recording are me and Laura. Anyone, even if you keep your camera on, you won't show up on the recording. If you unmute yourselves and speak, though, we will hear your voice. So just a heads up there. We are going to invite you to participate, but if you're more comfortable typing in the chat, that's totally fine as well. So yeah, I am Kristen Portland. I'm here from ANID. In case you don't know, we're an organization that is peer support for people recovering from eating disorders. I won't talk about it too much. You'll get some follow-up after this, but I am here today with Laura, and I will let you introduce yourself here.
Yeah, great. Hi, I'm Laura, and I'm with Eat, Breathe, Thrive. We are a nonprofit organization that works with people to just really help to prevent and overcome individuals who are struggling with eating disorder or disordered eating, and just helping to build skills, resources for mindful eating and body acceptance. So excited to be here with you guys today.
Yeah. And in case this is your first time, just a really quick overview of what today looks like. We will have about a half an hour of conversation. We'll invite you guys to participate if you're interested. If you want to just listen, that's always fine as well. And then after that, we're going to transition into about a half an hour of yoga led by Laura and attempted by me. And it'll be a lovely, lovely chance for all of us to just be together, be mindful, and in community together. So today's topic, and we'll talk more about this through the entire conversation, but we're going to be focused on transitions. So as we get started, I'm going to invite you guys to put a check-in in the chat. So at ANID, our check-ins always look like sharing your name, location, pronouns, and then the answer to the prompt. So today we're just going to ask you, what is a transition that you are currently navigating or that you have just navigated? What does that look like to you? So to get it going, I am Kristen. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I use she, her pronouns. And something that I've kind of been navigating throughout this year is transitioning from being a stay-at-home mom to being back and working and letting my daughter be cared for by other people and getting back and being in the world in a way that was different than it looked like when I was just home with her. So that's my check-in.
Wonderful. And my name is Laura, and she, her. And for me, my recent transition is that I am navigating moving to a new country. So I moved from the US recently to Mexico, and just getting used to my environment, trying to learn the language, lots of new things. We are also in transition of homes, so not having all my normal things and stuff and routines in place. So lots of moving parts these days, and learning how to navigate all of that and finding kind of my new normal, and making connections. So
I love it.
Interesting.
So Laura, this idea, picking the topic of transitions, that was your suggestion. And I think it's a really, really great one. And I can tell why you picked it, given where you are right now, kind of navigating all of these transitions that you're going through. But why did you pick it for this? How do transitions relate to recovery?
Yeah, it was interesting actually, because as I was moving, I originally live on a sailboat, so we took about a month and a half to kind of come down the coast. And it was really interesting meeting new people and them hearing what I do, that I work in recovery, how many people could identify with that and were so forthcoming with their stories. And it was really interesting that piece of transition that came up in so many of the stories. So it wasn't just me, kind of navigating all of this in such a big way, but also when it came to whether it was job changes or them trying to find a new home, or it was that they were, looking at getting pregnant, or dealing with, the after having a child and trying to navigate those transitions, kind of related to yours of like, what does it look like, coming out of the workforce and then coming and staying home with the child. And so I just thought it was just really this running theme through everyone that I was meeting, and that it specifically touched onto that recovery piece of really kind of accessing resources and supports and needing to get creative about it, because it's not in that known plane of like, oh, I know I do this, this, and this. Um, but also the beauty of that, it allows for a chance of reassessment, and looking at things in a different way, which I just absolutely love. And that's one reason that I love change sometimes, even though it feels just disruptive.
Yes, change is always scary. And you just said so many things that I love and want to talk about more. So first, I wanted to say that I kind of have a similar experience, that when I tell people what I do in the space in which I work, they become really, really forthcoming. And you're right, there's so many stories of transitions and changes. And as you were talking, I really started to think that, recovery is really about transitions and changes and setting yourself up to transition from one way of coping to another, from one level of care to another, whether you're making that first step to make an appointment with a therapist or come to a group or show up here to listen to us talking about recovery, and then whatever it looks like. And there's so many, there, there's no one road to recovery, never. You talk to 10 different people, they will have had 10 different experiences, treatment plans, journeys, levels of care. But the one thing that you'll see in common, I think, is that it's not just the same. Like, you don't just find one path and one provider and you go talk to them and like, oh, here's your straight line. And at the end of it is recovery. There's a lot of changes and switches in between. And in our chat right now, I'm seeing that there are people experiencing this right now, transitioning from treatment cycles to being home and at school, working on transitioning their experience with medication. Like, there's so many different changes. And I think it's easy to forget that these are transitions. It's change, and that's scary. Changing is hard, but it's also important in how we grow.
Absolutely. And I just love this idea. I could go on about this stuff, but it's just, I think, from the yoga perspective, as we're going to dive into later, kind of being in our bodies, of just also those check-ins. So often I was thinking about this weekend. It's like often we very much get into the kind of masculine side of ourselves, of like to-do lists and checking things off and feeling like we have to progress. Like, we're going from point A to point B, and these are the logistics we need to cover, or these are the objectives I'm supposed to meet, whether it's produced by the, recovery team that you're supposed to either, whatever it is around weight goals or whatever that is in your treatment plan. And it can get that same sense of rigidity that I feel like, I can get really comfortable with, right? Because it's a known piece. And especially when you're in transition, you're kind of grasping for that known, and you want to have something to hang on to. And I really find it's this invitation to bring in the more feminine side. Like, where can we bring in the intuition? Where can we challenge ourselves to trust ourselves and notice what's happening in our bodies? Like, how are we, our bodies, ourselves, actually reacting to the transition that's happening? And how can we look at it from a lens of possibility versus, I notice for me anyway, that I tend to grasp and constrict and want to kind of pull back from the world because it feels overwhelming. And so for me, it's really been a challenge of like, how can I open up? One example is like when I was first starting to travel and go down the coast, it was incredibly overwhelming and lots of fear just over the logistics of sailing right down the coast. It was my first time. I could not access my normal yoga practice. I couldn't access my meditation, all my go-tos and my normal places I went and all of this. And I remember one day that I just went and laid outside and just watched the clouds pass. And it was like I was able to just allow myself to feel a sense of ease for a moment, even though I felt like my mind was going a mile a minute. And so it's like that I hadn't done that. And I realized I hadn't done that since I was a kid. And I used to love going out and laying in the grass and just watching the clouds and, making shapes or whatever out of the clouds, and just allowed myself to do that and let there be a sense of just kind of play and ease about it, which was in such contrast to what I was feeling at
Yeah.
that time.
That sounds relaxing and amazing and wonderful. But I think you're right that so many people, when things are changing, they can't rely on their normal patterns, the things that are their go-tos for coping with anxiety or discomfort or whatever they're struggling with. And I love that you got creative. You just went outside, you looked back at things that worked for you when you were young and were like, you know what, I've got the sky. And
Mhm.
that is something that's always going to be there. And, especially over the last couple of years, a lot of the things that people relied on for support, they either aren't there anymore or they've changed or it feels different to be there. Like I was someone who was fairly regularly in a yoga studio, and now I just don't have the opportunity anymore. And when I am, there's still like that tiny little COVID voice in the back of my mind. It's not exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I've had to find new and different ways. And honestly, being here is a way that I find a little bit of what was the word that you used? Ease. Yeah. I love that. Just a little bit of ease, having these conversations and being able to move together afterwards. I love it. And it's the same in our support groups too. We moved all of them online. And that was
Mhm.
a huge transition for Anid, but we have found it's not the same, but it's still a really amazing place. And I guess I say all this just to mention that there are still resources. They're new, some of them, and they're changed, some of them, but they're there. And that if people are looking for them, both
Yeah.
of our organizations are there to help with that. So
Yeah, one of the beautiful things about that is, like you said, it's definitely different, being on the online format. And there are definitely pieces that I miss, like being in the room and that kind of palpable energy that you can feel when everyone's together, and just the different things that you can use. Like, I mean, even in a yoga class that you can like use music or singing bowls, and that
mhm,
does not transfer well online.
yeah,
So you can do it a different way, but how much has opened up because of um, being able to do tech, right? That it just opens up connection in the whole world. I think that is what's so great. But there was definitely resistance and a learning curve, right, of all the online things. Um, so I'm just wondering, yeah, like in the chat, if anybody wants to pull in anything that maybe is what we're talking about, if that speaks to you, or if you have your own examples, I'd love to hear of maybe
yeah,
what has worked, where maybe where challenges have been, and all of these transitional times.
yeah. I completely forgot to mention that you're completely welcome to unmute yourselves and jump in and talk with us. Or if you'd rather wait and use the raise hand feature, if you're someone that likes to be called on, we can absolutely do that too. But we're a small group and I'd love to hear from everybody today. I think it is a normal thing that as we're transitioning, there can be both excitement and resistance, right? There's I don't want things to change because I liked X, Y, and Z, and while also being excited for it. I think transitions are a moment where you really see the both and, right? Like there's both of these feelings. And
Yes.
even if they're completely conflicting, they're both real, they're both valid. It's it's one of the moments where in myself I see a lot of that where it's like, oh, I want things to go back to that, but also this is going to be really cool. Like there's space for both.
Yes. Oh, and I love this in the chat. You see, it says taking a public speaking. Oh gosh, I feel for you. That's like my biggest fear. I never imagined being able to like teach in front of a class or come online. And transition to being home. It's about leaning into the fear. So hard, but worth it in the long run. I think you're speaking exactly to what Kristen was just saying. Is like that challenge of transition. It's like the kind of grist in the mill, or like the incentive, right, is like a little bit of discomfort makes you reach for things that you normally wouldn't. And I think that's one thing, if I have kind of, I just love that transition, that kind of, it's like that force of change. that makes it happen, because it's so easy in yoga. We call it samskaras, but we think about like ruts that you get into, right? And once the rut's there, when you think about driving on a muddy road, it's really easy to get into that, right? I just want to take a moment because I can chat forever, but I know Kathy is wanting to come on, so I'd love to hear from her. So go ahead and unmute.
Hi. I guess for me, I struggle with like agoraphobia with my depression and anxiety. So having Zoom has really opened things up for me. I'm able now to get supports I wasn't able to before. Like being able to attend this, I there's no way I would have been able to do it in person. And so it's just, I am so grateful that there is Zoom so that we can, and I agree, it's not the same as being in person, but it's still nice that we can, if we choose to see each other and hear each other's voices. And it's kind of comforting, to be honest, to see everybody's environments. That's, look at where, like, look at that beautiful blanket, and you know, and just notice, to be able to notice little things like that. Uh, and so I'm just so grateful that we can do Zoom, and I'm grateful I can be able to finally get the support I need as there is Zoom.
Yeah, Kathy, thank you. And
Thank you.
I think you're completely right that for so many people, whether it's because of agoraphobia or lack of time or lack of resources, the ability to go somewhere really prevented them from getting this connection or treatment or whatever connection it was that they were looking for. And I do think a big silver lining of COVID is that this has become accepted and normal, and virtual treatment has become so much more normalized. Like, I did not hear very much about that at all pre-COVID. And now there's whole treatment centers with full programs that you can access virtually, which is absolutely incredible. And we see it in our support groups too. There's people who pop in from their cars taking lunch breaks, or who just aren't able to go drive somewhere, but they can go sit in a corner for a while and just be in that space. And it's really removed a big barrier to entry for a lot of people. So that's a transition that I'm going to go ahead and say is really, really positive. And it seems like Ruthie agrees as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that I remember when I first started working with Eat, Breathe, Thrive and trying to put on programs, and I would meet with therapists in the area, and I'd say, what do you have open for care, support care after treatment, when they come out, and there really wasn't a lot. Like, there was maybe a support group at a hospital 1 day a week. But like you said, when it comes to looking at all the barriers that come up, and not and simply logistical, like you said, like, am I a mom with kids that I now have to find somebody to watch my children just so I can go, to this thing? I was from the Bay Area, and it was like, and then I have to sit in an hour of traffic. So now I'm like looking at, I have to have a babysitter for like 3 hours for a 1 hour event for me to get out to. And to be able to come and access it from my home has just opened up my ability to drop into community and support in those resources. And it's been really powerful. And I think then for, people just to be able to have, where often treatment feels like a very big thing and you really have to push a lot of things aside. And even though I always want there to be intention when people show up in a space, but but it allows it to kind of come into the cracks, into the little grooves of your life of like, oh, I can fit in this hour here, but I can drop in and connect and feel supported. And it's so powerful what I see when people feel like there's a sense of community and connection. So much healing happens.
And Kathy, I like your point about seeing people's spaces as well. That's a piece of it that even if you're in an office with someone, it's never there too. So we, I think one thing we did at one point was do like tours. So we got a sense of each other's space, like whatever people were comfortable seeing. You're probably going to see my dog when I move to the mat in just a moment. He's currently there sleeping, so I'm going to have to scooch him, but it's just it's a different way to connect with people.
Well, and I have to say, Ruthie, I'm kind of interested, like, because public speaking was like such a big thing for me. I remember I did like Toastmasters and it was horrific, like feeling like I had to be in front of people. It was like the most nerve-wracking thing. So I'm wondering what is on that other side. I don't know if you're willing to share, but I would love to hear what's kind of like on the other side of that public speaking class.
Yeah, I just thought I'd pop on and take a brave step and show my face. Yeah, this is my space. Yeah, I decided to take a public speaking class under the impression at first that it was going to be just writing speeches and and not actually having to give them physically, but I am having to give them physically, and it's been such a huge step in just like personal growth, and it's made my voice come out louder, just so many things that it's really helped with. It's been such a challenge, and I've actually yet to give my first like big long speech, but that's coming up really soon, so I'm starting to get into the process of practicing that and stuff. And for my big speech, I have to like give it in front of an audience of at least 7 people, so that'll be a big challenge. But yeah, also, I think just coming home and transitioning into doing virtual groups and stuff, I've gotten like little glimpses of being able to kind of practice that public speaking thing. Like I've done some groups with EDF and had to, be face to face on camera, which was really, really challenging at first, but I've gotten a little bit more comfortable through practice and stuff. And yeah, it's just been, I agree. Just being able to find those grooves where I can fit in groups and stuff with school and work and all of that. It's just been such a blessing and such a cool little niche of community that I've found. So that's been really cool. Yeah, because I definitely, last time I came home from treatment, it was for a couple months, and it was really hard to find that sense of community that I had like when I was in treatment. So yeah, I think it's just been, a really cool way of getting that through online groups and things. So I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah. And Laura, you mentioned that too, that so many people leave or step down from a higher level of care and there's nothing there, or that there is, but they don't know about it. So
well, and kind of like what Ruthie was saying too, I think it also gives options, because sometimes you don't vibe with a group, right? Like there might be something there that just isn't quite the right fit. And I feel like this opens up that now there's different ways that you can engage. And I think, you and I are very good examples. It's like, our method is kind of like we incorporate movement into the things that we do. And then you guys have this other aspect of things where it's like the support groups and the mentorship and this connection and conversations and community. And it's like, it's so beautiful where it's like all these different facets. Now there's a choice. And I just love that it can get me emotional, that there's a choice. I think that's so powerful for someone to then feel what resonates for them and what speaks to them. Yeah.
We have, I think, 14 groups right now that meet throughout the week, and all of them have a slightly different flavor. Even the general ones. We have some that are for specific populations, but even the general ones, they're just, each one is a little bit different. And you see people try a couple of them and be like, you know what? Tuesday morning is where I'm at, or you know what, no, I'm the Wednesday night person. And these were all in different locations around the country. That option wouldn't be there, that choice. So yeah, it is a really beautiful piece of it.
Mhm.
I know for myself, I tend to um, have a tendency to start and not finish anything. I just I'm scared, or I think that I've said something wrong and I become really vulnerable feeling. So I've always tended to leave things. And when I did that Eat, Breathe, Thrive series, I had injured myself, so I couldn't do the yoga part of it. And I knew I needed something because I had to leave that. And then when I saw this, I thought, oh, there's an opportunity to receive support and do the yoga. And it was like really exciting to be able to say, okay, yes, I had to leave that other group, but I can come into something else that will be helpful in my healing.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad you're here.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's been really neat too, is just, yeah, it's that unification of things being able to come together, and that opening of offerings for people to access. Um, um, I think it's just wonderful to have that continuation of community as well. Um, and it sounds like that you had kind of found something that spoke to you and you wanted it to continue, and being able to find those avenues. Um, and for us, being able to create different ways as well. I know that sometimes, movement is the thing that, you're kind of looking for and bringing that in. And sometimes it's the conversation piece that you're really wanting to drop in, and drop in kind of deep. And that's what I really value about, that just kind of that single focus, right? Like that we're all here to discuss recovery. So it's not going to be the how's the weather kind of conversation. We can all kind of come in and allow ourselves to have our heart on our sleeves, and kind of speak to what is truly showing up for us, which I think we need more of that in the world. And I think it's such a valuable thing to have. And also with that aspect of being able to connect from all over the world. We get people from all over the world in our programs, and it's incredible. But to have that perspective change or difference too, to hear how things might be a little bit different for someone else, and that they might have different perspectives than we might, or things that we may have been exposed to. So it really, I feel like the world opens up in so many beautiful ways, not only by the people that we meet, but the mindsets that they have, or things that they've used to help in their recovery. So it's really powerful.
Mhm. Okay.
And for me, I think what I really appreciate is the differing viewpoints. Because for someone like me who tends to isolate, I just have my thoughts, or what I read, or what I watch online. But to be able to come to a group and hear live, oh, I never thought of looking at it that way, or oh, what an interesting perspective. And it just makes me, it helps me to learn, but it also helps open my mind to other options that for treatment, that I know that, okay, like being on this new low tyramine diet, I thought, yay, now I won't have an eating disorder because it's so restrictive. And I was mistaken, and about that. So I learned that. Now what do I do? And I realized, oh, I can come and join this group and other groups, and I can still get help, and I can still learn, and I love learning. So I just I like hearing the different perspectives.
Well, I just
So
want to,
thank you.
yeah. Well, and just to your point, Kathy, though, too, I feel like this comes up a lot as well. And I know we don't have a ton of time, so I'll keep it short, but just that point of allowing, right? Often, you know, like I was saying, there's point A, point B, we feel like we need to be here or here, you know, whatever it is. But also recognizing like how many life events happen from here to here and being compassionate with ourselves that, you know, like you said, I thought I wasn't going to have an eating disorder anymore. Like, aren't we done with this? Aren't we going to move on? And I know that I felt that way and felt just like devastated every time that I had a relapse because something big would come up and I would have a challenge and I would struggle with my behaviors again. And I find that, you know, even though there's beauty in the being able to reassess, sometimes, you know, we find ourselves in patterns or behaviors that are our easy go-tos. You know, my story was a nice one of that it was the clouds and everything else. Sometimes it's not that case, right? And sometimes we fall into patterns that we know serve us not necessarily in a healthy way, but it helps us to cope through a moment or a harder transition. And to allow ourselves to allow that to be a time of reflection and a time to, again, like look at what resources are available to help support me through this time, because healing, recovery is not linear. You know, we go all over the map. And just to allow ourselves, and I think that was my biggest lesson too as I was traveling, is we are all humans having a human experience, and that's it. And we have that needs to be the allowance that we have for ourselves, and to allow ourselves to meet that with compassion and care. So
Exactly. And I know for myself, when I had my relapse, I just felt such shame. And being able to find this resource, it allowed me to be vulnerable, because no one around me understood what it was like to have relapse, because everybody thought you can't have a relapse when you're on this strict diet, you know.
mhm.
And I just felt such shame and guilt. And so it's nice to be able to come to a space where I can be myself, where I can be vulnerable, and it feels safe.
Yeah. And that's the thing, making safe spaces to practice vulnerability and to let people see you and still welcome you. It helps get past that shame.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing.
Well, thank you for listening.
Of course. Okay. So speaking of transitions,
Yeah.
we are about at the midway point, so it's time to transition to the movement part of today.
Absolutely. Awesome. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and because it's a transition class, I'm going to transition us to standing. So in all of this, I just want to preface our time on the mat together with the fact that this is a choose your own adventure. That I want you to follow your own body's leads. If something I'm cueing does not feel good in your body, feel free not to do it. You can wait until I move to the next move and see if that feels good for you, or do something completely on your own, or even if it's just hands to the heart and kind of hang out until you're ready to come in. That's totally fine too. So in that, we'll just take a moment to go ahead and stand up. Just gonna move things here. I think it should be that you guys can see me just fine with the way I have things. And I'll just try to kind of speak loudly. But I know that often, you know, like we were talking about, when we come online and come, just like Kathy was saying, just this coming from a place of vulnerability, sometimes there can be lots of kind of energy stored here. So I'd like to just take a moment just to stand and just kind of swing, move our body, sitting still for a few minutes here. Shake out the legs, arms. So just come here for just a moment, hands on heart. You can have the feet just hip width apart and allow yourself to just ground and stand here for just a moment. So feeling that solidity, that stability within your own being. So allow maybe the toes to lift off of the floor, spread the toes nice and wide, creating a nice wide base to ground into. We've had all these beautiful shares today, which has been just wonderful coming into community together. So just allowing ourselves to come back to the self, right? Sometimes it can feel vulnerable or a little bit scary to share. And allow ourselves to just take a moment to come back to the breath. So a nice big inhale through the nose. And then exhale out. Feeling free, you can have just a gentle gaze or even close the eyes if it feels comfortable. And then just notice for a moment here, maybe where your attention is being drawn to. There might be a part of the body that is speaking to you. Maybe your back was sore as you were sitting, and that's kind of, there's a sense of relief, or maybe there's still a little bit of tension in the back, just noticing there. Maybe there's a sensation within the heart center with that kind of opening, that vulnerability. Might be a softness, there might be a little bit of tension or tightness, right? As we're challenging ourselves to kind of show up in a different way. The mind might be busy, so just noticing that as well. But whatever it is, just taking a moment to notice and acknowledge what is showing up, what is wanting itself to be seen, and then invite the breath in. So deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Big inhale. Let's go ahead and float the arms up. We're going to do a little bit of a tense and release. So just having this kind of contrast. And so as we reach up, we have that nice big inhale. As we exhale, almost like a superpower. When I have all boys, so we always watch these superhero movies, when they kind of like have their jet engines kind of, go off and then they get to fly off into space. But have it when your arms are coming down, creating that tension, fists pressing into the palms, igniting the legs, pressing into the soles of the feet. And then like that fire is coming out through the hands and allowing you to move to space, but just tensing. You can even clench the jaws, squeeze the eyes shut if you'd like to, as you exhale out, and then release, inhale, soften the body. Inhaling on up. Okay, again, go ahead and tense the hands, the legs, the jaw, everything tense as you're exhaling. Everything tense. And then inhale, soften, opening it up. Last time, nice and tense on the exhale. So go ahead and clench those fists, tense the arms, the legs, the feet, the glutes. Beautiful. Let's now go ahead and just shake it out. Nice inhale. Just noticing any maybe change in sensation that you may be experiencing. Oh, I'm feeling nice. Just release here. Feels good. Beautiful. All right, let's take a moment. So I'd like for you to ground into your left foot, send the right one back. This one I like to play with because it reminds me of like when we're in our groove, when we're talking like those normal things that we do, it can feel pretty easy, pretty simple. So we're going to inhale the arms up. We're going to have an open twist on this one. So we're going to open up to the right-hand side. And the gaze can be in the front, side, back, doesn't matter. So we're letting that right arm go behind us. And then as we exhale, we go ahead and let the right palm come to meet the left. Beautiful. And so inhale, opening it up. So then our chest is going to that side wall, like we're stretching out, reaching left fingertips forward, right fingertips back. And then exhale, bring it back to center. Okay, one last time. Inhale, opening it up. You can go ahead and let the gaze follow if it feels comfortable. Just letting that gaze go towards the back wall, and then exhale, following the hand forward. Beautiful. Okay, now that we know where we're going, this next one is going to be a closed twist where we're just going to shift our perspective, right? Like we were talking before, instead of opening this way, we're going to open to the opposite side. You might want to shorten and widen your stance. Okay. So this might feel a little bit more challenging. So go ahead and make sure you take your time in this movement. So inhaling gently, letting the arms float up. Same movement, just to the opposite side. So exhale, open. Inhale, and then exhale, float the hand forward. So this way might feel a little bit more unstable, but if we can just go with the flow of the breath. So inhaling, opening up. Exhale, floating hands to meet. The last one, inhale, opening up nice and wide. Exhale. Awesome, go ahead and shake it out. Try it on the other side. I love this one because it just shows that contrast of like when you just get into that groove, and we often find that in yoga, right? We have like our favorite side, our favorite way of doing things, right? And then somebody asks us to do something else. It's like, wait, what? Our body will tend to resist a little bit. And sometimes you may even just notice as we're going through the shift from side to side, now that it's a little more familiar, just notice if the mind gets busy or muscles tense up a little bit as we shift into different things, or maybe now that you know where we're going, might be a sense of ease or relaxation. So go ahead and inhale, open up, arms up towards the sky. You can let the gaze follow. We're going to do the open side this time. So this time we have our left foot back, right foot forward, and then opening here, this open side to the left hand side. Exhale, left palm meeting the right palm in the front. There we go. Just 2 more times at your own pace. Try and connect with that flow of the breath. Wonderful. Last time. Go ahead and check your stance for a moment as we get ready to move to that opening to the opposite side. So we might need a little bit more stability. So feet together a little bit closer, and maybe a wider stance will create that more stable base as we kind of challenge ourselves. So inhaling, arms up. As you're inhaling, open up now to the right hand side. And then exhale, float the arms. 2 more at your own pace. Noticing the breath, body. Last one. Beautiful. All right, go ahead and bring both feet forward. Come into that standing position one more time. And go ahead and inhale, arms up. Go ahead and grasp onto that left wrist. As we inhale here, reach through those left fingertips. And then exhale, release on over to the right. Nice, gentle bend here. Taking a moment again to notice our base. So just noticing maybe where we have shifted, maybe into the right foot or the left foot. See if you can send some of the awareness back into the left foot and really ground down. Maybe lift both toes, sets of toes. Spread them out and ground them back down again. Gently let the awareness come back to the breath. And then nice big inhale. Exhale, float the arms down. And let them cross, chin drop. Maybe even shake the head. And then inhale, arms up again. And this time, go ahead and clasp onto the right wrist. We're going to reach through those right fingertips. And then as we exhale, gentle bend to the left. Again, noticing that base, noticing those, right, those structures, that stability that we create for ourselves, to be able to reach into those different perspectives, views, habits, tools. Just shift that weight now, maybe to the right foot, that awareness to the right foot, even out the bases, lift those toes, spread them out, ground them back down to the earth. Go ahead and inhale on up. And exhale, release them down. All right, let's take a moment to transition to seated. We'll do a couple poses here as well. So you just find our seat, maybe come to the edge of the seat there. Yeah, whether you want to sit on a chair or just like Kristen is, she's sitting on the floor, either one is totally fine. This is allowing yourself again. So before our feet were a grounding force, and now we come down to the to our bottoms and sit there and just kind of ground in here, taking a moment. And let's take a minute here just to go ahead and tuck that chin. So just letting the hands rest, but taking a moment maybe to roll the shoulders back and down, away from the ears. Often we scrunch up. Just release that tension. And go ahead and draw the head over to the right hand side. And then almost like you're drawing a necklace with your chin, go ahead and exhale, drop the chin towards the chest. And then as you're starting to inhale, go ahead and release the head on over to the left. And exhale, chin towards chest. And then inhale, right ear to right shoulder. Just allowing ourselves to take the time. So go ahead and move with the breath. When the breath leads you into your next phase of movement, go ahead and follow. Just gently releasing from side to side. Go ahead and hold here on the left-hand side for just a moment. If you'd like, you can go ahead and take the left hand just above the right ear. There you go. Make you think about it. And just gentle release. If you have access to the floor, you can kind of fingertip the hand out, the arm out, and just feel that release. It helps to kind of drop that shoulder down and out there, creating space. If not, if you're on a chair like me, you can just extend the arm and then release that, chin towards chest, nice and slow so we don't get a kink in the neck. And then head over to the right hand side. Go ahead and take your right fingertips to the top of the left ear. Gentle, not pulling or anything, but just gentle pressure here. Beautiful, yeah, got it. If you'd like, you can extend that arm out. And then go ahead and release that hand. Drop the chin towards the chest again, and then allow yourself to come on up. Beautiful. Find those upper arms. Speaking of being on tech a lot, we often are like this. So a lot of this upper arm body work helps to just really open through the chest and the shoulders and the neck. So let's take a moment here. Go ahead and place hands on heart. If you feel called, as we're allowing ourselves to go a little bit more inward, go ahead and allow the eyes to close or just a gentle gaze to the floor. Softness in the eyes. Just find your breath, that gentle inhale gentle exhale. And as we allow ourselves to settle and to come home, allowing ourselves to tap in and just notice what is. Whether it's the rise and fall of the breath or the gentle heartbeat you may feel under the palm of the hands. Allowing yourself to remember that you, yourself, your breath, your body is a beautiful resource, as is the world around you. Remember that you are the water. You can cry, release, flow, let go. Remember that you are fire. You can burn, tame, adapt, ignite. Remember that you are earth. Ground, give, build, and heal. Remember that you are air. Observe, breathe, focus, decide. And remember that you are spirit. Connect, listen, know, and be still. Go ahead and take a nice big inhale. Let the eyes flutter open if they were closed. Wonderful. So let's just allow ourselves. We can kind of come back to one another. Slide up here. Nice.
I always feel so good after these. I love getting the chance to do them. Laura, thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I love just, taking that moment to just see how much we can reflect, right? Often we get caught up in our minds, but just bringing that attention and awareness, I think we often feel like we need to shut things down and omit it, right? But it's such important information, what's coming in, whether through the felt sense or kind of the mind chatter, and then work with it, right? Like play with it through movement, play with it with breath, and it allows us to process, right, what's going through rather than ignore it. And I feel like it just keeps coming back when we do that.
It has a tendency to, yeah.
It does. Yeah. I'd love to just have a check-in with you guys and just see if there's any maybe reflections or takeaways, whether from class, the movement piece of things, but also, the conversation piece, if there's any questions or anything else that may be coming up that wants to be shared. We can take a few minutes here. Yeah.
I appreciated the movements because I literally have not moved off my couch since January. So, with the depression, this is the first time I've moved, so it felt almost amazing that my body could move. I could feel it hurt in areas and stiff, but it just felt good to move and move like in a very gentle, self-compassionate way. There was nothing aggressive. And as you were speaking earlier, it felt more to the feminine, to the woman.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah. So glad we could be there together in those moments, right? And it feels so nice to be like held in those space, right? To be able to come out and shift things up, but not have to do it on our own all the time. Sometimes that can feel really exhausting, and it feels really nice when you're kind of prompted and get to be in a space with others to challenge yourself to do something different. Yeah.
My big takeaway and what I really loved was just that reminder that your body is your biggest resource, or your body is a resource. And you always have that with you, kind of like what you said earlier, with like the sky is always there, your body is always there. So I really liked that. And then I just was aware of the anxiety that came up for me about showing my body on camera doing yoga or just moving in general. So that's something to keep in mind as maybe a goal, something to work towards, because that's something I'd like to do, is take a yoga class in person. I've done yoga classes online a lot recently, but never with the camera on. So that's just something to work on and a goal to keep in mind. But yeah, I really liked that that what you said about your body being your biggest resource. So yeah.
Well, it seems like you made some big steps today, just participating, turning your camera on, joining us. And if you want that to be a goal, I think it's a really beautiful goal. But there's also taking care of yourself and making the choices that feel good. And I think you did a great job of doing that today. So thanks for showing up.
Thank you.
I have to say my takeaway too is just really looking, I'm really inspired by Ruthie's way of looking at unconventional spaces too, right? Like often we think we need to look only in like the recovery environment or things like that, but recognizing the opportunities, just like your speaking class, like what a way to, not only face a fear or build a skill, but also I find in those kind of environments, people are writing to then speak and share about something that they're passionate about. So it's a way to get to know each other in a less confrontational way of saying like, so what's important to you? And it's a really beautiful way just to get meet diverse people. And so being able to just look at all kinds of opportunities that are out there in ways. And like I said, like coming back to that human aspect of things of, we're all looking for connection and validation and compassion and support. So I just love that you guys are making it happen in so many different beautiful ways. So thank you so much for showing up so fully and being part of the conversation.
Yeah. And I think my takeaway from today, I'm going to
Fly.
that was perfect, because I think I'm going to echo you a little bit and then also go back to what Kathy mentioned about seeing the little details of people and remembering that it really is another person, a fully rounded human being behind all of these little Zoom squares with their own stories and challenges and journeys. And especially as virtual becomes more and more pervasive, I think it's easy to be in connection, but also have like a little bit of removal. So just for myself, remembering we're all here, we're all people, and trying really hard to connect in new and different ways, and just leaning into the opportunity and the power of that.
So good.
Okay. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, we do post this recording, but it'll only be voices and Laura's and Mai's faces. But I hope we get to see you again, and you keep coming back and you keep finding support in new and unique places to support you wherever you are.
Absolutely. We hope to see you guys again in the communities.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.